Did you know that the actress in The Collector was kept isolated from the crew for weeks? Not as a trick, but as a real method to capture true loneliness on film? That decision changed everything. The fear you see in her eyes, much of it was genuine. This 1965 thriller still haunts viewers today because something deeper was happening behind the camera. Terror was not just written, it was lived. What looked like acting was often survival. And one quiet British film became a masterclass in psychological horror without a single drop of blood. Let's dive in and discover 20 weird and amazing facts about The Collector. Number 20. A novel nobody wanted to film. Before the cameras rolled, The Collector was just a book sitting on shelves. John Fowles wrote his dark story in 1963. It told the tale of a lonely young man named Frederick Clegg, collected butterflies, but then he collected something else, a living woman named Miranda. The book was brilliant but disturbing. Hollywood executives read it and said no. They feared audiences would hate it. They worried about protests. They thought the story was too dark for a movie. Studio after studio passed on the project. Producers called it impossible to film. They said no one would want to watch a man keep a woman prisoner in a basement. The subject matter felt dangerous. But one director disagreed. William Wyler saw something different. He did not see just horror. He saw a human story about obsession, loneliness, and the need to be loved. Wyler had already won 3 Academy Awards. He had directed classics like Ben-Hur and Roman Holiday. He understood that audiences could handle difficult stories, if told the right way. Wyler fought to make this film. He convinced Columbia Pictures to take the risk. He promised a movie that was disturbing but beautiful, and he delivered exactly that. Sometimes the best films come from books nobody wanted to touch. What scared others away became Wyler's quiet masterpiece. Number 19. William Wyler's final act of courage. William Wyler was not young when he made The Collector. He was already in his 60s. His career was legendary. He had made epic films with massive budgets, but this time he wanted something small, something personal, something that would challenge him again. Wyler chose The Collector because it scared him. He admitted in interviews that the story made him uncomfortable. That was exactly why he wanted to direct it. He believed great art should push boundaries. It should make people feel things they do not expect to feel. The studio gave him a modest budget. There were no huge battle scenes, no cast of thousands. Just 2 main actors in a house. For a director known for spectacle, this was a bold choice. Some people in Hollywood thought Wyler was making a mistake. They said he was too old for this kind of film. They said psychological thrillers were for younger directors. Wyler ignored them all. He put everything into this project. He worked closely with his actors, paid attention to every shadow, every sound, every glance. The result was one of the most intense films of the decade. Critics praised his restraint. They admired his vision. Wyler proved that a great director never stops taking risks. Age is just a number. Fear is just a reason to try harder. What seemed like a step backward became a leap forward. Number 18. Finding Frederick Clegg. Casting the villain was the hardest part. Frederick Clegg was not a typical bad guy. He did not shout or threaten. He was quiet, polite, and deeply disturbed. The actor playing him needed to seem gentle and terrifying at the same time. That combination is rare. Dozens of actors auditioned. Some played Freddy as too scary. Others made him too sympathetic. Nothing felt right. Then Terence Stamp walked into the room. Stamp was young and handsome. He had just earned an Oscar nomination for Billy Budd in 1962. His blue eyes were famous, but more important was his stillness. Stamp could say more with silence than most actors say with words. Director William Wyler watched his audition and knew immediately. This was Frederick Clegg. Stamp understood the character perfectly. He did not play Freddy as a monster. He played him as a lonely man who made monstrous choices. That difference was everything. Audiences watching the film feel confused. Part of them hates Freddy. Another part almost pities him. That emotional confusion is exactly what Wyler wanted. Stamp created a villain who lives in your memory. You cannot forget those eyes. You cannot shake that quiet voice. The monster looked like the boy next door, and that was the scariest part of all. Number 17. Samantha Eggar's painful commitment. Finding Miranda was equally difficult. The role required an actress who could carry the entire film. Miranda spends most of her screen time trapped, terrified, and fighting to survive. She needed to show fear, hope, anger, and desperation, sometimes all in the same scene. Samantha Eggar was a young British actress without much fame. She had done small roles in television and theater. The Collector would be her first major film. When she read the script, she felt both excited and afraid. The role demanded everything. Eggar said yes immediately. What followed was one of the most challenging experiences of her life. Director Wyler pushed her constantly. He wanted real emotion, not performance. He asked her to dig deeper into her own fears. Some days, Eggar cried for hours between takes. The physical demands were brutal. She spent weeks filming in a cold, dark basement set. Her clothes were dirty, her hair was tangled. She looked exhausted because she truly was exhausted. But Eggar never complained. She understood that the suffering served the story. Her dedication showed in every frame. When the film premiered, critics praised her performance. She won the Best Actress award at the Cannes Film Festival. Pain was worth it. What looked like acting was often real anguish, and that truth made Miranda unforgettable. Number 16. The Basement That Became a Prison. The basement set was designed to feel like a real prison. Production designer John Stoll studied actual cellars and underground rooms. He wanted the space to feel suffocating. Every detail mattered. Walls were painted in dull colors. The furniture was old and uncomfortable. Small windows let in only thin streams of light. The ceiling was deliberately low. When Samantha Eggar walked onto the set for the first time, she stopped breathing for a moment. It felt too real. The air was thick and stuffy. The space pressed against her from all sides. That reaction was exactly what the filmmakers wanted. They kept the set cold on purpose. They limited the lighting. They made sure Eggar felt trapped even when cameras were not rolling. Some crew members felt uncomfortable just watching her work down there. They could see the toll it was taking. But everyone understood the goal. The basement needed to feel like death, needed to make viewers uncomfortable in their seats. When audiences watched Miranda struggle in that dark space, they felt her panic. They wanted to reach through the screen and help her escape. The set was not just a location. It was another character in the film. The walls held secrets. The shadows held terror. And the basement became a place no one could forget. Number 15. The Real Location. Hidden in Tennessee. Most people think The Collector was filmed entirely in England. The novel is British. Characters are British. The story feels deeply English. But the truth is more surprising. While some exterior scenes were shot in England, the main house sequences were filmed in America, specifically in Tennessee. William Wyler found a perfect old farmhouse in the Tennessee countryside. It had the right look of isolation and decay. The surrounding land was empty and quiet. No neighbors for miles. The house sat alone, like a forgotten secret. Wyler loved it immediately. He knew this place could become Freddy's prison. The crew transformed the property completely. They built the basement set inside a nearby soundstage. They added details to make the house look more English. Most viewers never noticed the switch. The film feels completely British from start to finish, but Tennessee soil supported every footstep. Tennessee air filled every breath. That hidden American location gave the film something unexpected. A sense of timeless nowhere. The house could exist anywhere. The horror could happen to anyone. Geography disappeared. Only fear remained. The secret location made the nightmare feel universal. What seemed English was actually American, and nobody ever guessed the difference. Number 14. The butterflies were real and rare. Clegg collects butterflies. This hobby defines his character. He pins beautiful creatures to boards and studies their still wings. Collection represents his obsession with possessing things he finds beautiful. When he captures Miranda, he treats her the same way. Filmmakers knew the butterfly collection needed to look authentic. They hired experts to assemble real specimens. Dozens of rare butterflies were carefully mounted for the film. Each one was labeled properly. Each one was positioned perfectly. The collection you see on screen cost thousands of dollars. Some specimens were extremely old and valuable. Handlers wore special gloves when moving them. The props department treated the butterflies like treasure. Director Wyler insisted on close-up shots. He wanted audiences to see the delicate wings in detail. He wanted them to understand the beauty Freddy saw, and he wanted them to feel the horror of what that beauty meant. A butterfly pinned to a board cannot fly. It cannot live. It exists only as a frozen object. Miranda faces the same fate. She is beautiful, so Freddy wants to keep her forever. Butterflies told the whole story without words. They were silent symbols of everything wrong with Freddy's mind. Real insects, real beauty, real death. Props were gorgeous and deeply disturbing. Nothing fake could have captured that perfect, terrible stillness. Number 13. Terence Stamp stayed in character for weeks. Method acting means becoming your character completely. Some actors use this technique to deliver extraordinary performances. Terence Stamp decided to try it for The Collector. He did not just play Freddy Clegg, he became Freddy Clegg. During filming, Stamp isolated himself from the rest of the cast and crew. He ate alone. He walked alone. He barely spoke to anyone between scenes. He wanted to feel the loneliness that defined Freddy. He wanted to understand what it meant to be invisible to the world. Stamp also studied real criminal cases. He read about kidnappers and people who struggled to connect with others. He visited museums and looked at butterfly collections. He tried to see beauty the way Freddy saw beauty, as something to capture and control. The transformation was unsettling. Crew members said Stamp seemed like a different person on set. His eyes went cold. His movements became careful and deliberate. Even Samantha Eggar felt uncomfortable around him, but that discomfort helped their scenes together. The tension between them was real. Stamp later admitted the experience was exhausting. Living as Freddy left marks on his mind. But the performance justified everything. Critics called it one of the finest villain portrayals in film history. What seemed like just acting was actually sacrifice. Stamp gave pieces of himself to create a monster, and audiences could feel the difference. Number 12. Samantha Eggar was kept separate on purpose. Director William Wyler had a plan. He wanted real tension between his two lead actors, so he kept them apart. Samantha Eggar and Terence Stamp barely interacted off camera. They did not eat together. They did not rehearse together. They did not become friends during production. This separation was intentional. Wyler believed that strangers create better conflict on screen. If Eggar and Stamp became comfortable with each other, the fear might disappear. The desperate distance between Miranda and Freddy might feel fake. So Wyler kept them isolated. Eggar spent her breaks alone in her dressing room. Stamp wandered the set by himself. Came together for scenes. Both actors felt genuine awkwardness. They did not fully trust each other. That mistrust translated perfectly to film. Miranda does not understand Freddy. She cannot predict him. She fears him. Eggar did not need to fake that uncertainty. She barely knew the man playing her captor. The technique was clever but cruel. Both actors later said the experience was lonely. They wished they could have supported each other through such difficult material. But they also admitted the results were undeniable. The film crackles with tension. Every scene between them feels electric. Wyler got exactly what he wanted. Two people who seemed like strangers trapped together, because in many ways they actually were. Number 11. The chloroform scene. Required dangerous timing. One of the most disturbing moments comes when Freddy uses chloroform to subdue Miranda. The scene needed to look realistic, but also keep the actress safe. This balance was extremely difficult to achieve. Real chloroform is dangerous. Even small amounts can cause harm. Obviously, the production could not use actual chemicals. Instead, they used water on the cloth, but the physical struggle had to look believable. Terence Stamp and Samantha Eggar rehearsed the sequence many times. They practiced the movements until they became instinctive. Stamp had to grab Eggar and press the cloth to her face. Eggar had to fight, then slowly go limp. The timing needed to be perfect. If Stamp pressed too hard, Eggar could be injured. If Eggar went limp too quickly, it would look fake. The scene took an entire day to film. Wyler demanded take after take. He wanted every moment to feel absolutely real. Eggar later said her muscles ached for days afterward. The repeated struggling exhausted her completely, but she also said the scene remains one of her proudest moments. Viewers watching the film hold their breath during this sequence. They forget they are watching actors. They believe Miranda is truly being attacked. That terror was earned through patience and precision. Safety mattered, but so did truth. The crew found a way to deliver both. Number 10. Maurice Jarre created music. That Haunts the Collector needed a special score. The music could not be loud or dramatic. It needed to creep into your mind slowly. Director Wyler chose composer Maurice Jarre for this delicate task. Jarre had already won an Oscar for Lawrence of Arabia. He knew how to create unforgettable sound. For The Collector, Jarre decided on something unusual. He used few instruments. The music is sparse and unsettling. Long silences are broken by strange tones. Melodies start but never quite resolved. The effect is deeply disturbing. You feel something is wrong without knowing exactly why. Jarre studied the film carefully before composing. He wanted the music to reflect Freddie's broken mind. The notes feel disconnected, just like Freddie himself. At times the score almost sounds beautiful, then turns sour. That contrast mirrors Freddie's false gentleness, hiding real cruelty. Recording sessions were intense. Jarre asked musicians to play softly, almost whispering their instruments. He wanted the score to feel like breathing in a dark room. The final result earned widespread praise. Critics called it one of the most psychologically effective soundtracks ever created. You cannot separate the music from the terror. They belong together. Jarre proved that sometimes the quietest sounds are the most frightening. It seemed like silence was actually dread waiting to strike. Number 9. The Cannes Film Festival victory. When The Collector premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 1965, nobody knew what to expect. The film was dark and disturbing. Some worried audiences would reject it. Instead, something amazing happened. Both lead actors won top prizes. Terence Stamp received the Best Actor award. Samantha Eggar received the Best Actress award. This double victory was extremely rare. The festival had seen many great films, but few swept both acting categories. Critics praised the performances as career-defining. They noted the chemistry and tension between the leads. They admired the courage required to take such difficult roles. Stamp and Eggar became international stars overnight. Hollywood suddenly wanted both of them for major projects. Cannes victory changed their lives forever. The awards also changed how people saw the film. Collector was no longer just a strange thriller. It was now an important artistic achievement. The festival recognition gave the movie credibility. Audiences who might have ignored it now bought tickets. The film performed better than expected at the box office. All because two actors gave everything they had. Cannes recognized their sacrifice. The world followed. What seemed like a risky project became a celebrated triumph. One festival changed movie history, and two careers along with. Number 8. The ending was changed for American audiences. Fowles wrote a devastating ending for his novel. The book concludes with chilling implications about what Freddie might do next. The darkness continues. Hope is extinguished. When Hollywood adapted the story, they faced a problem. American censors and studio executives worried the original ending was too bleak. They feared audiences would leave theaters feeling hopeless. Some suggested changing the ending completely. They proposed having Miranda escape. They suggested punishing Freddie more clearly. Lengthy debates followed. Director Wyler fought to preserve the spirit of the novel. He did not want a happy ending forced onto a tragic story. Eventually, a compromise was reached. The film's ending remains dark, but with subtle differences from the book. Certain implications are softened. The final moments leave questions rather than answers. Wyler believed ambiguity was more powerful than explicit horror. He wanted viewers to leave the theater thinking, what happens next? Could Freddie do this again? Those questions haunted audiences more than clear answers would. Some Fowles fans criticized the changes. They felt the novel's bleakness was essential, but others appreciated the film's restraint. The ending still disturbs without destroying hope entirely. Wyler walked a narrow line between truth and commerce. He changed just enough to get the film released, while keeping enough darkness to honor the source. That balance was another quiet victory. Number 7. Samantha Eggar's near collapse. During filming, the physical demands on Samantha Eggar were brutal. She spent weeks filming in the cramped basement set. She performed scenes of struggle and desperation repeatedly. She cried on command for hours at a time. Halfway through production, her body began to fail. Eggar lost weight rapidly. She had trouble sleeping. Her voice became hoarse from screaming. Crew watched with growing concern. Some suggested stopping production to let her recover. Director Wyler asked Eggar directly if she wanted to continue. She said yes without hesitation. Eggar believed stopping would ruin her momentum. She had built up emotional truth over weeks of suffering. Starting again would mean losing everything she had achieved. So she pushed through the pain. Doctors visited the set. They monitored her health between scenes. They gave her vitamins and rest when possible, but the work never truly stopped. Eggar later called this period the hardest of her entire career. She questioned her own limits, discovered strength she did not know she possessed. When filming finally wrapped, Eggar took months to fully recover. The experience changed her forever. She became more selective about roles. She understood the true cost of commitment, but she also never regretted her choice. The performance spoke for itself. What looked like acting was earned through real suffering. Eggar paid the price and delivered a masterpiece. Number 6. The art discussion. Scenes were improvised. Miranda is an art student. She loves beauty and creativity. These traits define her character and contrast sharply with Freddie's obsession. Several scenes show them discussing art. Miranda tries to explain why beauty matters. Freddie pretends to understand, but clearly does not. These conversations are quietly devastating. Originally, the script contained formal dialogue for these moments. The words were carefully written and rehearsed, but something felt wrong. Exchanges sounded stiff and artificial. Director Wyler sensed the problem. He asked Samantha Eggar to improvise. Instead of reciting lines, Eggar talked about art as herself. She shared her own thoughts and feelings. She spoke naturally, as if teaching a real student. Terence Stamp responded in character as Freddie, confused, defensive, and slightly threatened. The results were electric. The improvised scenes feel completely genuine. You can hear real passion in Eggar's voice. You can see real confusion in Stamp's eyes. The contrast between them becomes heartbreakingly clear. Miranda understands beauty as freedom. Freddie understands beauty as possession. These improvised moments reveal everything about both characters. Wyler recognized genius and kept the cameras rolling. Sometimes the best dialogue cannot be written. It must be discovered in the moment. What seemed like planned conversation was actually spontaneous truth, and that truth made the film unforgettable. Number 5. The film almost got banned. The Collector deals with kidnapping, imprisonment, and psychological torture. These themes made censors extremely nervous in 1965. Before the film could be released, it needed approval from various boards. In America, the Motion Picture Association reviewed every scene carefully. They questioned whether the content was appropriate. They worried about scenes showing chloroform use. They worried about the disturbing ending. Several cuts were requested. Director Wyler fought against most changes. He argued the film was artistic, not exploitative. He insisted the darkness served the story. After lengthy negotiations, the film was approved with minimal cuts. But the battle was not over. In some countries, the Collector faced outright bans. Certain nations refused to show it at all. They considered the subject matter too dangerous. The controversy actually helped the film in some ways. News of potential bans created curiosity. People wanted to see what authorities found so troubling. Box office numbers increased in regions where the film was allowed. Wyler understood that controversy could be valuable if handled correctly. He never apologized for his choices. He stood by his vision completely. Today, The Collector seems tame compared to modern thrillers. But in its time, the film pushed boundaries. It showed audiences something disturbing and forced them to think. What seemed too dark became just dark enough. Number 4. John Fowles visited the set and wept. John Fowles created The Collector on paper, but seeing his words become reality overwhelmed him. The author visited the film set during production. He watched Terence Stamp and Samantha Eggar bring his characters to life. He observed the basement set, his imagined prison made solid and real. Friends later said Fowles became emotional. He had lived with these characters in his mind for years. Now they existed outside of him. They walked and talked and suffered. The experience was strange and powerful. Fowles spoke with both actors. He answered their questions about character motivation. He explained small details from his research, but mostly he watched in silence. He saw Eggar perform a particularly difficult scene. When she collapsed in exhaustion afterward, Fowles had tears in his eyes. He later wrote about the experience in his journals. He described feeling proud and disturbed simultaneously. His story had caused real pain, even in fiction. Fowles remained supportive of the film throughout production. He praised Wyler's direction and the actor's commitment. He believed the adaptation honored his novel. That approval meant everything to the filmmakers. Authors rarely love movie versions of their books, but Fowles understood that film was a different art form. Changes were necessary. Interpretations varied. What mattered was the emotional truth, and The Collector delivered that truth perfectly. The creator watched his creation and wept. Number 3. The final scene took 17 hours to film. The ending of The Collector is devastating. Without revealing too much, the final moments show consequences and possibilities. The thing the film has built collapses into one quiet sequence. Filming this scene took an entire day, 17 hours of continuous work. Director Wyler wanted perfection. He shot the sequence from every possible angle. He asked for subtle variations in performance. He adjusted lighting repeatedly. The actors grew exhausted. Crew members struggled to stay alert, but Wyler refused to stop until he had exactly what he needed. Samantha Eggar later described those hours as dreamlike. She barely remembered specific take. Her body moved automatically while her mind floated elsewhere. Terence Stamp said he reached a place beyond acting, simply existed as Freddie in those final moments. The exhaustion became part of the performance. Both actors looked genuinely drained because they were genuinely drained. When Wyler finally called the final cut, the set fell silent. Everyone knew something special had been captured. The footage from that marathon session became the ending you see in theaters. Every second earned through sacrifice, every emotion purchased with real fatigue. Wyler thanked his cast and crew with tears in his eyes. He knew he had asked too much, and they had given even more. What looked like a simple ending was actually an epic achievement. 17 hours created 5 minutes of perfection. Number 2. The film changed. How Hollywood made thrillers. Before The Collector, most Hollywood thrillers relied on action. Chase scenes, gunfights, physical danger. The Collector proved something different was possible. A film could terrify audiences through psychology alone. No monsters. No murders on screen. Just 2 people and terrible tension. Other filmmakers took notice. In the years following The Collector, psychological thrillers became more common. Directors studied Wyler's techniques. They learned how to create fear through suggestion rather than display. Performances became more important than explosions. Character depth replaced simple villainy. Critics trace a direct line from The Collector to later classics. Films like Misery, Room, and countless others owe debts to Wyler's approach. The template he created still works today. Put a victim and a captor in a confined space. Let the audience feel trapped alongside them. Build tension slowly until it becomes unbearable. This formula seems obvious now, but someone had to prove it could work. The Collector was that proof. One small British story changed an entire genre. Hollywood learned that fear lives in the mind, not in the blood. What seemed like a limited film became unlimited in influence. Past shaped the future, and the future never forgot. Number 1. The real legacy is human truth. After all the facts about production and performance, one truth remains. The Collector endures because it tells a human story. Frederick Clegg represents something real and terrifying. He is loneliness twisted into obsession. He is love corrupted into possession. He exists in the real world, not just on screen. Miranda represents hope and resistance. She fights to survive. She tries to connect with her captor. She refuses to surrender her identity. Her struggle reflects every person who has faced impossible circumstances. Audiences watch The Collector and recognize these forces. They see loneliness in themselves. They see the desire to control what they love. They see the fight to remain free. These themes transcend decades. They speak to viewers in 1965 and today equally. William Wyler understood this universality. He did not make a film about a kidnapping. He made a film about human nature. The darkness he explored lives in all of us. The light Miranda carries also lives in all of us. Those extremes, the film finds its power. Terence Stamp and Samantha Eggar gave performances that still resonate. Their faces tell stories that words cannot capture. Their eyes hold truths that time cannot erase. The Collector is not just a movie. It is a mirror, and what we see in that mirror still matters. The greatest fact about this film is the simplest one. After 60 years, it still makes us feel. That is immortality. Bonus fact: The Lost Alternative. Ending. Deep in the archives of Columbia Pictures, a secret waits. Before the final cut was completed, William Wyler shot an alternative ending. This version has never been officially released. Only a handful of people have ever seen it. According to crew members who were present, the alternative ending was even darker than the theatrical version. It showed more explicit consequences, removed any ambiguity about Freddy's future plans. The footage was reportedly devastating. Test audiences who saw this version reacted strongly. Some left the screening room in tears. Others complained the ending was too hopeless. Studio executives grew worried. They feared the darker ending would hurt ticket sales. They asked Wyler to consider alternatives. After much debate, the director agreed to soften the conclusion slightly. The alternative footage was locked away. It was never destroyed, but never released either. Film historians have searched for this lost ending for decades. Some believe it still exists somewhere in studio vaults. Others think it was quietly disposed of years ago. The mystery adds another layer to the film's legend. What did that original ending contain? How dark did Wyler originally want to go? These questions may never be answered, but knowing the footage might exist keeps the collector alive in imagination. Somewhere, possibly, the full truth of Wyler's vision waits to be discovered, a final secret hiding in the shadows. Perhaps one day the lost ending will emerge. Until then, the mystery remains part of the story. Hidden frames holding darker truths. The Collector is more than a thriller. It is a study of human darkness and light. William Wyler took an impossible story and made it unforgettable. Terence Stamp created a villain who still haunts our dreams. Samantha Eggar showed us courage under impossible pressure. Together, they crafted something that transcends entertainment. 60 years later, this film still speaks to us. It asks uncomfortable questions. It forces us to look at parts of ourselves we would rather ignore. It reminds us that monsters do not always look monstrous. Sometimes they look like the boy next door. Sometimes they live inside ordinary houses. Sometimes they think what they do is love. The Collector also celebrates resistance. Miranda never stops fighting. She never surrenders her spirit. In her struggle, we find inspiration. We remember that hope matters, even in the darkest places. If you enjoyed these stories, subscribe for more. Every movie hides a truth, and we will keep uncovering them, one story at a time. Share this video with someone who loves film history. Leave a comment with your thoughts about The Collector. And remember, the best stories are the ones that change how we see the world. This film changed many things. Perhaps it will change something in you too.